Good evening, all. Good evening, all. Welcome to the Permanent Building Committee meeting on March 14th. We are virtual again and have been for several meetings in the past 2 years. Tonight we've got, wow, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 topics. So I appreciate everybody's patience tonight. And the first one is to approve the last meeting minutes. Can I ask for a motion to approve the last meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Thanks, George. Any questions, concerns? With that, coming to the vote, again, it's a virtual meeting. We will do a roll call. So I'll go down the roll call for a vote. Richard?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
And myself, chair is aye. I don't see any other committee members. Oh, yes, Jean, you're there. Jean?
Hi, yeah, here.
Thank you. Okay, great, perfect. Okay, super. All right. With the first topic tonight, we have the public safety with Ken. And I'll turn it over to you, Ken. And do we have all the users for the public safety in?
John wasn't sure he was going to try and make, but he wasn't positive he would come.
He said the same thing to me earlier.
But Dennis is here.
Okay, yep, I see that. Great.
Where is my, hang on a sec, my meeting, my notes disappeared. Let's see if we can get this to work again.
Are you gonna share?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay.
My notes disappeared. There it is. Okay. For some reason, it dropped off my screen. There we go.
Okay, let's come up. Come up.
Trying to enlarge it a little
There you
bit
go,
here.
perfect. Yeah,
There we
you
go. All right. Well, as most of you probably know, we've moved the police into PD into the building, and we're working on a punch list and finalized the cell inspection yesterday. Was it Friday? Friday, I guess it was. And still working on some furniture punch lists. The shelving has been delayed. The proverbial COVID delays. Working on the site work, the pavers are continuing, and then we'll be scheduling the landscaping and the final pave as the weather gets a little bit better and the ground is more conducive to plantings. Most of the AV equipment is in. They've been in and out. We've had issues with Okers in that regard. A couple things left over at Fire Station 2. They started the fence removal up at the temp, and then they'll get into some more minor cleanup, and they're going to get the straw wattles out of there once the fence is out, and that will clear up things on the temp. Any questions with our schedule?
Well, a quick question. Will we be needing a fence around the site for the work we're doing for the school administration building?
We discussed that in looking at trying to, do we leave the fence up or not? We don't believe we will. All the works, with the exception of the connection to the water line for the sprinkler system, which they can just put a temporary fence around that if they have an open excavation. We don't believe we will need anything. And if the contractor needs something, he can just provide that. Maybe for some outside storage if he needs it.
Okay.
All right. The ACL is pretty short this month. I think everything on here we've seen before. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I think everything on here has been on here since we started.
Only
All right.
question I have is how much money we have left.
100 grand.
Even?
Yeah, 100 and some change.
That's after ACL, correct?
That's after ACL, correct?
And is there any timetable for when we get rid of some of these things off the ACL, like future COVID costs?
Yeah, we can probably get rid of that pretty within the next month or so. Just making sure that there's nothing hanging out there that can be charged to this as a result of anything going on. Like for the shelving, for instance, if we can't get the shelving, we've got to go out and buy it from somewhere else. It may increase the price, and that would be a legitimate COVID cost. So I'm hesitant to take that off until I'm pretty sure that we're in the clear.
So for practical purposes, help my simple mind out. If we end up with $150,000 that we're not going to need for COVID costs, that goes in on top of the 100,000 we have in our contingency.
From a mathematical standpoint, yes, but if you recall, I've been saying all along, unless it is directly attributable to COVID, that money will be rescinded.
Okay.
I'm not going to spend,
right.
I don't think it's right to spend money the town's given us for
Right,
COVID and the soils and then spend it on a roof. I'm
I
using an
understand.
example.
So my mathematics, my simple math is correct then. It would go from 100 to 250,000.
250, correct.
If you,
And if we,
okay,
and if we spend the other 100, then that 150 will still go back.
okay. Good.
Anything else? All right, Stuart, I think we can go to the voting items.
Yeah, and we need to do the change order first, correct?
We can. It doesn't matter. We don't have anything here that we're paying for that's not on the, it's not like we need a PSS or something to pay an invoice, but yeah,
Okay.
whatever order you want to take them.
Yeah, I've got it here on the spreadsheet, so I'm gonna suggest that we do the change
That's
order
fine.
number 38.
To take it whatever order you want.
Okay, so is there anything on here that, anything like the 11,000, nothing, we've spoken about these, but is there any questions or anything you want to comment on, Ken?
No, I
questions
think
from
everything
anybody else?
has shown up previously. There might be a few small ones maybe that have popped up in the last month that weren't on last month's, but I think pretty much everything on here is has been run through the mill already. If anyone has any questions, obviously be happy to answer them.
Okay, so I'll put forth the change order number 38 for approval. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thanks, George. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Irwin.
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Okay, I'm going to go to the invoices, Ken. I'll start with the first one, which is the Consigli Rec 38, which is for $738,153.48, coming out of the general contracting budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, come to the vote. Roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
chair is aye. Next invoice is for KBA for February 2022 services for $13,448.07 coming out of the architecture budget. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you, Irwin. Any questions? Seeing none, hearing none. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
aye,
Erwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
chair is aye. I'm going to put forth 7 invoices, all coming out of the miscellaneous budget. I'll read them through for approval. First one is Needham Police and details for February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for $1,320. Needham Police invoice for details on February 8th, 9th, and 10th for $1,264. The third invoice is Needham Police for details on February 22nd, 23rd for $576. Next invoice is AccuHealth for water quality testing in the police department, $2,900. Wakefield Moving Services for Fire Station 2 in the police department, $9,935. Next one is Wrist Frost Shumway commissioning for Fire Station 2 for $2,273. And the final of the 7 invoices with UTS Materials Testing for the Public Safety Complex for $700. Total of $18,968 coming out of miscellaneous budget. Do I hear a second?
second,
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
aye,
Erwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
chair is aye. I'm going to put forth 4 invoices for the technology budget. First one is HID Global for fingerprinting equipment for $3,875. Second invoice is also for fingerprinting equipment from HID Global for $2,250. Next one is Okers for
I don't know how
AV
long they'll
equipment
talk. I mean, I'm probably on in a couple of minutes. I just-
for $10,772.52. And the last of the 4th is Okers as well for AV equipment for $2,750. Total of the invoices are $19,647.52. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Erwin. Any questions?
I do have a question. What's the
George?
issue we're having with Okers, just having them get there?
Yeah, their billing's all messed up. Their, their scheduling has been very poor.
Is there a reason to pay them this bill if we're having problems with them?
George, I'm holding about 6.
6
Oh.
6 payments?
6 bills, yeah, for various items that they haven't completed. So, no.
But these are completed.
Correct.
Okay. So there's no reason to hold this up because they're not performing the way we want them to.
Correct. We're already doing that.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Concerns? Okay, coming to the roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
aye,
Erwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
chair is aye. We have 5 more invoices coming out of the FF&E budget. First one is tools and equipment connection, relocate, lift, and reinstall billing for $1,664.60. Robert H. Lord Furniture for $350,894.83. Also an invoice from Robert H. Lord for furniture for $2,965.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that one's okay. I'm sorry. We passed off on that one. Yep.
Okay. Next one is WB Mason recliners for $2,640. And the final of the 5 invoices, Mohawk lifts for vehicle lifts, $3,362.43. Total of those invoices is $361,526.86. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Any questions?
Are those all within the FF&E budget?
FF&E, yes, yes. Some of it's furniture, some of it's equipment, yes.
Okay. Got it.
Stuart, did you have the shredder one in there? I didn't hear you say it for WB Mason.
No. I
Yes,
did not.
he did. The WB Mason,
4107?
it's the fourth one down.
But it's recliners for 2,640.
No,
Yeah, and then
shredder
there's-
as well.
The shredders for 4,107.
No,
Yeah,
I didn't
both
put that
in.
on there.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
have
on
that
there.
on the spreadsheet.
It's on there, but I don't think you listed it, Stuart.
No, I'm looking at the spreadsheet, Catherine.
Oh, yeah, it should be on there. I missed it on my sheet.
So that's a 6th invoice for WB Mason shredders. And what's the total?
4,107.
4,107. So that changes the total to approximately 366 and change. If everybody are okay adding that invoice to this collection and that rough total, we're okay with that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Erwin. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
Chair is aye as well. That's all the invoices I have on this sheet. Ken, anything we've missed?
Yeah, you did. I have a different order and I don't have Catherine's spreadsheet up on here. You had the Harbor phone one also, right?
Harbor phone was not on this.
No, it wasn't on there.
It's on the sheet that's showing there.
Do you have the invoice and material, Catherine?
$9,347.50.
Catherine, do you have the invoices? I could put it to a vote.
Yes, I do have the invoice. I
Okay,
just
so I'm gonna
didn't-
put-
I must have missed it.
Okay, so I'm gonna put forth the Harbor phone system. Purchase order for $9,347.50. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Erwin. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to a vote. Richard,
Aye.
George? George,
I said aye, sorry.
thank you, sorry. Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. 164.6, yeah, okay, anything else you see, Ken? Richard, you
We have
guys,
the two PSSs. Well, it's one PSS, but there's two amounts on it.
okay, hold on a second. Richard, you have a question?
Well, actually, I'll wait until after this vote.
Okay, okay. So the two PSSs we have, so help me here, Ken.
As built for the Cogswell Tower for $2,200 and Fire Station 2 artwork for $8,408.
Okay, so I'll put forth the PSS number 48 for the amount of $2,200 plus $8,408. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second,
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Chief Condon,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Anything else? Hold on a second. On this Granger picnic tables, I don't see that on this list here either.
The work tables and the picnic tables.
Correct. And I'm just clarifying, Catherine.
I must have not saved this document properly, but yes, we do have the invoices for those.
Okay, so I'm gonna put forth the invoice for the Granger work tables and picnic tables. Two amounts. $288.26 and $3,228. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
aye,
Erwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Chief Condon.
Aye.
Okay, and the chair's aye. I think, I'm just looking at my spreadsheet and I'm looking at what you've got there, Ken. I think we're good.
Yep, I think that's it. Yep.
Okay. All right, Richard, you had a question?
Yeah, actually, just two quick items, Mr. Chair. First, what if we could have an updated invoices spreadsheet sent to us? That would be helpful just for our records.
Sure.
Secondly, I'd like to ask through you, Mr. Chair, if at some point, if the chiefs are amenable, if we could schedule walkthroughs of both the police station and fire station 2 at the appropriate time.
I think it's a great ask. I would like to as well. Ken, is that doable?
Yeah, as long
With the chief?
I don't think there's Dennis, you don't have an issue with fire station 2, do you?
No, you're more than welcome. I would love for y'all to see it.
We can ring the
And
bell
then,
too.
I'm sure.
No ringing the
You
bell. No, if you want to, you can.
Ah, excellent. So we just need Chief Schlittler to help us out and give us a tour of
We have some very nice holding cells that
I was gonna say, I don't want to go near
we
those.
can, anyone is welcome to they've all got time locks on them, so if you end up getting put in there, you're locked up for the night.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions from anybody else? If we can wrap this agenda item up on time?
So
If,
what,
as far as timing on it, if people just want to email me some days that might work, we can go from there. Do it early, middle of the day, later in the afternoon, whatever seems to work for folks.
Probably morning or at late afternoon for folks. Like 5 is 5 good for folks?
yeah,
When is the front entrance there, putting the pavers in? When do you expect that to be finished,
And
Ken?
they should be finished with the pavers this week, hopefully weather permitting. And then, like I said earlier, it'll be probably a couple weeks before we get into the plantings and the final pave. So it'll still look a little, the pavers will be done, but it'll still look a little messy in the front.
It'd be
Okay,
nice to
can
have
we-
that entrance finished before we schedule, but doesn't matter to me.
If that's fine if that's the thinking, then we're probably looking at sometime towards the end of April, I'd say. Miles, does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ken.
So end of
We don't
April?
have to wait for that, but be nice to at least have that entrance finished.
Whatever your pleasure. If that's the way we want to go, then we can look to set something up at the April meeting. Why don't we plan on that?
Yeah, I'll send out an email to the board and just ask for maybe Ken, we can just pick a couple times and then we'll go out with an email and people can respond.
I did have one other question, Stuart,
Go ahead.
and that relates to, I know that you mentioned that the shelving is an issue. Do you expect there's anything else that we're waiting on other than things that might be affected by the punch list?
The only thing I can think of that may be a delayed item based on what it took for the training room is the VAV for the front lobby. Because it took us a while to get the one for the Milo room downstairs. So I expect that it would be the same 6 weeks or so to get the one for the lobby.
Okay.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thanks, everybody, the user group, et cetera.
Thank you.
And,
Thanks,
we'll
everyone.
close this out, and then if we could pick up the Hillside. Hank, is that you?
Yes, and Deborah's here. And I think Walter is here as well.
Michelle's here. I don't know if Walter's here.
Walter was
so-
here.
Walter was on before.
Okay. well,
Deborah,
we'll
do you want to share your screen?
Start, I'll share my screen. So let me start. We'll start with Hillside and then just briefly an update.
Do you
on-
want sorry, hold on a second. Do you want Joel in this? No?
I do. Can you, Deborah, can you
Yeah,
stop
Joel's in
sharing
the-
for a little bit?
Joel's in there, and Ann Galati, I think, also needs to be
Yeah,
brought in.
What do you need me to do?
I need you to stop sharing for a moment
Oh, okay.
and then I can. Okay, let me just,
I'm just gonna bring in Joel
And
and Ann.
Joel emailed me saying he was having difficulty hearing. I don't know if that was a connection issue or what. Oh, good. There's Michael.
okay, I'm trying to promote Joel for, well, I've hit the button to promote Joel for, as a panelist, so he should be able to come in. There, okay, his name's gone, so he should be in. Okay,
There he's there.
everybody should be here now.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
Deborah,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Go ahead, Hank.
Okay, I'll go back to sharing.
I should, Deborah, in an introduction, I should say that BH+A has been working very hard on both buildings, the Hillside building and the Emery Grover. In this presentation, we'll go through the preliminary cost estimates that came back on the Hillside, and then we'll walk through some of the design issues related or updates related to the Emery Grover building. That Emery Grover building is also out for cost estimate, and we expect to have that back in time for review with the PBBC at the next meeting on the 28th of March. So with that, Deborah, I'll turn it over to you or Joel.
Great, I'll go ahead. And if Walter comes on, Walter can chime in. So for the Hillside School, oops, sorry. It's a 50% CD cost estimate that was done a few weeks ago, and with some reconciliation last week. The two cost estimators, PM&C, are the folks that we brought on to do a cost estimate for us, and then Fogarty for the town. So this is a summary sheet. I do have more of a an overall trade breakdown that's not in the PowerPoint, but I can put on the screen afterwards if anybody wants to see that detail. So basically,
that detail was distributed to the committee along with this show in advance.
Okay. So the gist of it is the construction cost in the budget for Hillside was 1.47 million. And then on top of that, you see down at the bottom, there was another 20% budgeted for contingency for Hillside. And the two estimates that came in for the base scope, 1.4 and 1.5, a difference of $150,000. So that was pretty close. Estimating, obviously those are averaging the middle of the road estimated bids. So if, for example, the Fogarty number were to come in as the bid number, the contingency can cover that overage. There were 4 alternates looked at as part of that cost estimate. The first one, as we've discussed in previous meetings, would be for a new heating system with window air conditioners and not repairing the existing boiler. So the base scope is to repair the existing boiler for that added cost. I think the intent now is to drop alternate number 1 going into the actual bidding, that there's no point in paying that much more and over budget for a system if we can repair what's there. Alternate number 2 is to use PVC sprinkler pipe instead of the cast iron pipe. So that would move up to alternate number 1, that deduct alternate. Alternate number 3 would be to fully demolish the modular, and I'll show you the plan in a minute. The base scheme is to disconnect and demolish just a piece of a corridor and then leave the modulars in place. So that would be an extra cost to do that demolition work. Alternate number 4 is at the kindergarten spaces where currently there are the kindergarten size toilets in there. And so this alternate would be at those restrooms to put in the full size ones. That's not in the base scope because there are enough other toilet rooms to satisfy the need of the program for the school administration. So that,
Deborah, before we go on to the next one, I just want to get concurrence from the PBBC that dropping this alternate number 1 is appropriate. And instead, there is a separate warrant article that is that the building maintenance department has put forward for $275,000, and that includes one boiler replacement, which would then become part of the building maintenance department scope, and their work would be running in parallel with the other renovations. Barry, I don't know if you want to chime in on this.
Yes. At the end of the day, I gotta have redundancy regardless. After admin leaves, still have to heat the building, and these split systems with heat pumps are not gonna be able to provide enough heat for the entire building if the older boiler goes out. So we had already planned this before this was going to be used as alternative space for admin while the Emory Grover was being built. So it was already something that I was looking at doing, and that's what I'm going to pursue outside of the construction of the renovation.
So when the discussion comes up at town meeting, both the Emory Grover warrant article and this additional funding for the replacement of the boiler will be necessary. It's not one or the other.
If it comes down to it, at the end of the day, if they don't approve this, I will probably pull it out of my warrant article that exists and rolls over. I got to replace the boiler regardless. I can't leave it as is, the one that's not functional. But I also want to go back to the new toilets too. That's something that I was also planning on doing. I know it's not a lot of money added to the project, but I think anything that I can pick up for the project helps, eliminate the unnecessary expenses on the project.
And as people may recall, we do need to list these in an order in which they would be accepted. So we would then make the sprinkler pipe option alternate number 1, and alternate number 3 would be demolishing the modulars. We might keep alternate 4 in, but we don't have to accept it. So it would be great if that could be done as soon as possible, even before that contractor shows up.
Okay.
So is there George, I see you have your hand up.
I do have a question. I need an explanation if you can. Alternate number 3, which will become alternate number 2, says demolish modular. Someone mentioned that you might just disconnect it and leave it there for now. What is the demolishing the modular mean? Are we going to get rid of the entire thing? for 78,000 or 87,000?
Correct. The entire modular would come down and they would regrade the site.
For that amount of money, that 78 or 87, whatever, approximately.
That was the estimate, yes. This plan that is up on the screen now shows you that link connector demolished. And the full demolition would take away those 2 classrooms plus the corridor and everything else down there.
Okay.
The slide is showing the CPC eligible costs, which Hank asked us to put in this presentation. And what this is showing again is the summary of the overall construction costs with Hillside in there. And then showing that the CPC money is not including the Hillside costs, so that in the overall CPC eligible construction costs of the 12 million, we took out the Hillside costs from that. And then the overall summary for the CPC eligible costs with the 12.9 construction cost, the soft cost, the contingency resulted in the 16.8 number, and then the 6 million that's being requested of the CPC. So relative to Hillside, this slide is showing that the Hillside cost is not part of what's being requested for the CPC. Any questions on that? Hank, did you want to say something?
Yeah, and the current discussions with CPC, they are actually trending toward less than the 6 million, maybe only 3 million. So we're waiting to see where they come out, and there's a follow-on meeting with them this Wednesday.
Why are they looking at a lower number? They're running out of funds?
I think that they feel as though they need to prioritize more money toward housing, affordable housing. And that, as you know, it's their recommendation that they make to the select board and to the town meeting. And town meeting can either accept or reject it. But if they
Town meeting cannot increase it.
cannot increase it, correct?
Okay, if we move on. The schedule then for Hillside. So we have the bids in place and ready
I'm
to.
sorry,
get
I
started.
still had a question on the CPC fund.
Oh, sorry,
I'm
sorry.
And this might be out of ignorance. What happens if they do only fund half of the 6 million?
Town has to fund the rest of it.
Is that an override? How does that,
No.
is that an additional approval for those funds, or we just automatically, that is
Well,
just?
As I understand it, the finance director would have to come up with a plan for funding it, either out of the levy or
Yeah.
override. But I don't think there's any tendency for people to have an override for this
Yeah.
project.
Anne, do you want to weigh in on that?
I think I would agree with that. But of course, that those discussions have not yet happened around not only how that money would be arrived at, but the CPC has not yet made a recommendation as to its funding recommendation.
Yeah, right. I just didn't know what the results were if they were only to fund half of the request or less of what we requested.
I
They're
believe
going to be, the easy answer is they're going to be scratching for funds wherever they can get them, but it's probably, in order to be successful at town meeting, it's probably going to have to come out of the tax levy.
Yeah.
Michael, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that in our conversations with the community, we've always, the school committee has always talked about the $20 million as the cost of this project and said that we are going to ask for, but we have no idea if we will get anything at all. So it's not like town meeting hasn't heard the full amount. Okay, we haven't come to them with an amount that includes 6 million less. Not saying that makes it any easier for Dave to find. I'm just saying that that's kind of the way it's been presented to the community, that we did not, when we went to the community and to town meeting, talk about what it would cost. We gave them the full $20 million estimate, not 6 million off of that.
Right.
And from listening in on other FinCon meetings, I think that they're pushing for free cash to take up a fair amount of this budget, but exactly how much and what proportions, I don't know. Should we continue?
Move on. So in terms of the schedule for Hillside, we are getting ready to advertise for bids. The drawings will be available March 24th, filed sub bids for 2 weeks, and then general contractor bids for a week with the final GC bids. Bids due 4/21, general contractor bids. And so that will be ready to present back to this group at the end of April on the 28th in advance of town meeting. So assuming things stay as they are and the project is on budget, the expectation is it'll be approved for construction at town meeting and will proceed directly into being awarded. So construction can start and construction completed early December.
So the first time we would see that estimate is when?
So the bid number, so the general contractor bids will be due April 21st.
But,
So which,
but you'll be seeing the Emery Grover cost estimate at the next meeting on March 28th.
So this is just regard to Hillside and the Hillside bid process.
right. So we'll see that contractor bid number on the 21st.
We'll be getting it on the 21st. I think the next meeting we have with you is on the 28th. We can certainly forward information in advance of the meeting.
I think that would be helpful, because all we'll have is one meeting there to look at it. So we should get it as soon as you've looked at it and feel it's reasonable to present to us. It should be sent to the committee so that we can intelligently discuss it on the 28th, because that's our last meeting. It's only a few days before town meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just once again, to explain that alternate number 3 and the demolition of the modulars, that's the Hillside plan. If there are no other questions on Hillside, we can move on to the Emery Grover. So we have completed what is a design development set of documents that is out to the same 2 cost estimators right now. Those cost estimates will be due on the 18th. The cost estimators will have a few days to look over each other's estimates. We'll be having a reconciliation meeting next week from Wednesday on the 23rd to look at those numbers. And then you see on the update schedule, then at your next meeting on the 28th, we will be sharing the results of the DD cost estimate for Emery Grover. We are presenting to the school committee tomorrow, I think there's a mistake in this update. 3:15, we're updating to the school committee, 3:16, updating to the CPC. And then, as I said, back to you on the 28th. There's also a planning board submission for Emery Grover, which we will be planning on submitting that on April 18th for the May 17th meeting with the planning board, then expecting to have their final approval at the June 7th meeting. Hillside will be submitted to the planning board this month. Hillside has to go because there's a change in use. So the expectation will be that the Hillside planning board approval will be received in April in advance of the town meeting. To update you on the progress of the plans for the Emery Grover building. These are the plans at the DD level that are being estimated right now. The lower level of the building, we have several of the departments, student learning, student services, the distribution center, some other conference spaces. You see the elevator going down to the lower level, toilet rooms, and then this addition that's from grade that has a materials lift down to a receiving room for the distribution center. On the first level, we have the entrance, a new enclosed vestibule at the portico, an entrance from the Highland Avenue side, ramp and stairs coming from the parking lot side, coming into an elevator lobby, the elevator, the new enclosed stair up to the other levels and down to the basement. At this level, transportation and nutrition in a suite, human resources has a suite, community education. Then there are some other offices and a conference room in the former center entry area. At the second level, information technology, the superintendent's suite with a conference room, the finance department, staff break room, some other offices at the second floor level. And then at the current attic level that we're now going to be calling the third level, some photos of the existing attic space. And then this is the plan of what we're looking at now for the third level. You'll come off the main stair or the elevator. There's still a 2-foot level change where we're looking at a few options for how to deal with that. But for now, we're showing a ramp coming up into the large conference space. Or if you come down the corridor or from the other stair, 2 doors into a conference room that's showing here 68 seats facing east. There'll be blackout shades, filtering shades at these dormers, and there's that skylight above. Then there's also another conference room here and toilet rooms. There will be the mechanical room where we'll have the heat pumps with louvers inside that dormer at the north side. Then at the south mechanical room will be the ERV that serves the large conference room directly, a storage space for tables and chairs. And then these are some renderings starting to develop what those spaces will look like with chairs. The character of the space will stay with the existing wood trusses that are still supporting that that floor at the third floor. There will be some structural reinforcing to take the added loads of now having conference up there and just to repair it, because as it is currently, it was undersized and not functioning properly. So resupporting it with some columns at the center line going down through the building, and with footings, but keeping the trusses and all these other pieces of the structure that are exposed. And then this image on the right is that smaller conference room looking west towards Highland Avenue, which will also be getting natural light. And that is the update. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I can go back to the plans.
Yes,
Barry,
please.
Hold on a second. So I see you hand up, Barry. Is that Lynn? Lynn, you got a question too?
Yeah. Oh,
Go ahead, Barry, and then I'll
yeah, thank you. Hey, Deborah, question. I'm assuming that the skylight itself, the structure is going to change to an upgraded structure.
Yeah, we're showing a complete new skylight up there. I mean, but basically the same, keeping that same kind of tapered
Right.
opening.
Got it.
With a raise up a curb and a new skylight on top.
So how are we going to either shade or tint? Is there going to be a tint to the glass to offset the sun load into the room to help offset the, you know,
Are you talking about the skylight or the windows in general?
No, not so much the horizontal, but that skylight. Is that going to be treated with either a system to close to help reduce the thermal load from the sun, or is it going to be a tinted glass with a level of tint that we can look at and say, yeah, that's going to be enough for 9 to 10 hours of sunlight throughout the day.
The particular skylight I was looking at that we just used on another project, it does come with availability with a tinted glass, and it has the ability to have sort of integral to the hipped shape of the skylight, an integral track for a shade that would be on that same 45-degree diagonal.
Yeah.
So there's that option, or we could have a separate motorized shade system down lower.
Yeah, no, that's probably not a good idea. I think your most efficient thing is to make sure that the glass has a sufficient amount of tint to it to offset. And I know 3M and a bunch of other manufacturers now make glass that helps reduce the thermal load from the ultraviolet radiation from the sun to help us obviously reduce the cooling load in that room, because inevitably, A, sun damages everything it hits, and B, it just costs us more money to keep that upper level cool. So I think it's definitely something we really need to look at. I don't want anything motorized. I think it should be something that the glass is made with itself. And that way you just, fire, forget, leave it alone. And we don't have to worry about maintaining a motorized shade system. But anyway, just a food for thought.
So for the large conference room, the thought was we would want the option of a light filtering shade as well as a real room darkening shade. And so for the windows that would be at the dormers, we would have both. That's much more easily reachable. And then the question is, if you're really doing some kind of a presentation where you want the room darkening, maybe having that at the skylight is really not that important, where it's not right on a screen that you would have. We have another version of this rendering where we start to show actually a screen down in front of this.
Yeah.
But yes, the can get all kinds of
I think ultimately
filters
there should be something permanent that stops the sun, regardless of whether somebody's presenting something or not. Because 99% of the time that room's not going to have a screen showing with a bunch of people in it staring at it. It's most likely going to be empty, or just maybe even a conference, but that there's a permanent solution to keep the sun from damaging the interior of the building and all the structure, all the furniture and the floors and the paint, and also just the additional heat load that we're going to have to offset with the cooling.
Yeah, I mean, we can go over with you the sort of the specifics when we get to that level
Yeah.
of specification of the product and the glass.
Okay, thank you.
Lynn?
I just wanted to go back and look at the plan for a second, Deborah, if we could. I'm just trying to understand the head height issues beneath the structure.
At the third floor.
Looks- Yeah,
So for the trusses, these dashed lines are showing the where the truss is. Sort of the heavier lines here are showing if you're cutting through the truss at, I think the 4 foot.
no, I get that. I'm saying,
Level.
how are you preventing from an ADA perspective, people banging their head, walking between those dotted lines because
Right,
it
yeah,
drops down
no, and we
below
did,
6'8".
we had, and it's not represented here for some reason, but we have marked and on some other presentations where we have a section through this, the 6'8" height, they'll have to have something obviously at the floor level.
Floor.
At the
Okay, so
6'8"
you're gonna-
point down. So we've looked at that,
Okay.
and where the openings come through, there is sufficient opening to have
Okay, I'm sure there is. I was
Greater
just
than a
looking at the
6'8"
renderings.
passage
At the
through.
renderings. Yep, it just seems, it seems like it's open, so it's a giant head banger there. And at the conference room, you'll have to do the same thing, because coming in the doors to the small conference room at 303, it's also a head banger, so. Okay,
Right, so
cool.
here the trusses are right here. So there's
Right, but you can't be more than 9 inches
less of a
off the
problem of
wall.
walking into the, right at the wall.
Right, but it's still an ADA challenge. You can't be more than 9 inches off the face of the wall without a.
Correct, right. So, well, we haven't designed that yet, but something on the floor that addresses that issue. And then for the other head height issues in the space in general, this hatched area was the space under the slope of the roof that does not have adequate head height to have a 7-foot ceiling in the toilet rooms. So that's why the shape of the toilet rooms are what they are, just to.
One more question.
Okay.
Is there any way to get to the chair and table storage without going down the stairs?
We can, we talked about, and we can still do this, look at putting another ramp on this side that could take you straight down and ramp down through here is one option. I don't know, it's only 3 steps. It didn't seem like it was necessarily a deal breaker to have to come down
Just asking.
3 steps to get into the
It just
table and
depends
chair
on,
storage.
yeah, it just depends on what they want to move there. So, okay, thanks.
George?
I have a question regarding the front entrance. So that the portico as it exists now, there's 4 or 5 steps to go up to get to that landing. That essentially, those steps will still stay, but they won't go, you won't be able to go up those steps, correct?
Right, so I mean, there is sort of two runs. So the first run will stay exposed at the exterior. The second run that's right in here will get covered over by this piece of floor.
Okay, so the front entrance will be facing Highland Avenue.
Oh, the front entrance that people will use. Is that what you're
Right.
asking?
Right.
So this no longer is an entrance. This north portico that gets enclosed to will be accessible from both the east and the west. So what's not represented here, just in the spirit of just minimizing the number of slides we're showing tonight, but I think we showed you the last time in our site plan, there's a walkway from Highland Avenue that kind of swoops up and is an accessible walkway and comes up to then this landing into this side of the portico, again, with the existing granite steps getting covered over. So we have that, the landing and the flush entry into the
So as you
portico.
come up from Highland Avenue, you will come in at a landing level that's the same as the
as the inside of the portico. So that's what this is right here, is that
vestibule.
5 foot deep landing.
And the stairs that exist now will still stay, but you won't be able to go up those stairs into the vestibule.
Right, this will get
Right.
covered over, and then this gets covered over with grass and plantings.
Right. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
the ramp will come up to the other side of the
Then from
vestibule.
the parking lot, the ramp will come up, and then a set of stairs also, just so it's not, you don't have to go up a ramp to get from the parking.
Okay.
And then this set, it's still shown here, but I think we're looking at maybe getting rid of these steps that become sort of steps to nowhere.
Yeah. It would look kind of funny, I think, if we had those steps left there
Yeah.
and they went nowhere. But
I mean, it's one of those questions that sometimes the preservation groups have strong feelings about not removing something that's original. So, you know, it's nice that for some of these other ones, we can cover them over and it's reversible if someday they want to come back.
I
But
think if
we could
I
take
think if
them.
the shape of the outside is similar, I don't think anyone would care about those steps, but that's just my opinion.
Right. So this has 2 doors and the sort of east and west, and then sort of a more solid panel here, maybe with solid down at below 30 inches. So this doesn't really look like something that people coming out would kind of try and walk through at all. It'll be more of a more solid piece at this side. So we're studying sort of the options for exactly how much glass and the design of this infill and this infill as well.
I did have one other question that actually carries over from the last meeting. I mentioned, and I don't know who was going to try to set this up, but I wanted to chat with the structural engineer on what he has done or what they have done to date regarding the structural additions that they feel they have to make in this building to meet the current code requirements for things like seismic, et cetera. I haven't heard from anyone. I'm assuming he's working or they're working on that, but I'd like to still have that discussion somewhere along the way, hopefully before we do our final cost.
Yeah, actually, I mean, we are actually at a point now that we can do that, and I apologize. I mean, we were really scrambling to try and get all the information together on the drawings for the design development cost estimate, and the plan had some evolution, and the structural engineer was very good about sort of changing and adapting to that, and doing all the structural work to work with the plan that we wanted. And there are, you can see here, there are a few masonry shear walls, like the one right here on the north side of the building. We have the new elevator shaft that addresses that. Over here, we have this one, and this compensates for those 2 existing brick chimneys on the east side that were inside the building that we're taking out.
I didn't mean to have the discussion here, but
Yeah,
I think it would
okay.
be a good idea kind of offline to just satisfy my technical curiosity, since I've been involved with lots of things like this in the past, and I just have questions I'd like to chat with the structural engineer about.
Right, yeah, and you also
whether-
had mentioned at the last meeting, the acoustic engineer, and we do have the
Right.
answers to that as well, that we can.
So anytime you want to do that, kind of in a Zoom meeting at your convenience and the structural engineer's convenience, that probably won't take more than half hour, 45 minutes anyway.
Okay,
Hank?
Go through
Yes.
and go through Hank on that, please.
yeah,
George, I think we do have some fairly detailed design development drawings. I'll start off by sending those to you, or sending you a link so you can download them. And from those, you can see what his approach is to the design. You'll also see in the architectural drawings the amount of envelope work that needs to be done, both in repointing and in some cases rebuilding of the brick.
Okay, I just soon get 11 by 17s Those are much, much easier for me to read than trying to get them from the computer screen.
Okay, I'll print those and get them over to you.
Well, I can pick them up. Just tell me when they're ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Will do.
Great. So you have your hand up, George, still, or are you?
No, that was.
All set?
those are
Okay,
my-
great. So Hank, we all set?
Yes, we do have a few voting items.
We have for the Emery Grover, we have 4 items. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So I will, I'll move to those items. I'm gonna put 2 PSSs together. Erwin, you got a question? Yep.
Yeah, yes. Were we supposed to vote to remove alternate 1?
I don't think it's necessary to vote. It sounded like there was consensus.
Okay, just want to be sure.
Unless you're welcome to vote, but I don't think it's necessary as long as there's consensus.
Anybody have any objections to that? I don't see any or hear any. Okay, I'm going to go to the voting items. As I said, there's 4 items. I'm going to group them in 2. 2 PSSs, PSS 5 and PSS 6 for BH&A. Number 5 is for parking engineering study for $4,565. PSS number 6 is for energy modeling services for $25,900, both combined coming out of the architectural budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, coming to the roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
and I believe Michael
Yeah, aye.
and Anne,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Okay. Second set is invoices from BH&A. The first one is January 2022 services for Hillside, $76,008. Second one is January 2022 services for Emery Grover for BH&A for $12,825 for a total of $88,833 coming out of the architecture budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Seeing none, hearing none, coming to the roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. I don't see any more, Hank. I see the school master plan, but that's a separate topic.
Yep.
Are
We'll
we all
move on to
set?
that if it.
I
Okay.
did have one, I have one question about, I want to ask Ann Galati. Ann, is your office on the 2nd floor?
Yes. Sorry,
didn't
my current office is on the 3rd floor. The attic is considered the 4th floor. It used to be on the 2nd floor.
But I mean, in the new plans.
It is on the
Second.
3rd.
No, second.
Third with the superintendent, right?
It's
No,
on
we-
the same
we
3rd
call-
with the superintendent.
It's
on the
what we're
one-
calling the second.
This is what we're calling the second level.
So which one is yours? Assistant
My
Superintendent?
office it's down closer to where the front door, the side where the front door is.
Is it,
It's right here. If
Right.
you imagine where the front door is, that's where it is right there.
Finance Assistant Superintendent, is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I didn't see it on here, but I must have missed it. As long as you have one.
We do.
We found a seat for her.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for the Hillside and Emery Grover. Most of the user group is going to be the same, I believe. I'll turn it back to you, Hank, for board review of the school master plan.
Yes, and let's see if you can elevate Michelle and Don and
Michelle, Lynn,
Jason.
and Don as well. And Jason's in.
Yes, and I'll let them proceed. We did send out, I did send out a summary of a presentation that was given to the board meeting, just as a background reference. And then just today, we sent out an updated presentation that Doran Whittier will go through this evening that compares some of those options, the 4 options that are still on the table. And I don't think that we'll repeat the 4 board meeting slides because you've seen all of those, I believe, before. But if you do have questions on those, we can go back to them. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Don Walter.
Thank you, Hank. Hello, everyone. Nice to be back. As you know, I got Michelle Rogers and Jason Boone here with us tonight. And this is a condensed version, as Hank mentioned. So we're going to get right into it. And Michelle's going to take us through the presentation because it's quick, it's succinct, and hopefully gives you some good information.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone see my screen already?
Yes.
All right, so tonight we're just going to review a few of those goals that we developed over this, what we're calling the 2022 master plan, and then a few of the options. And then we'll go through that chart that Hank sent out to you, which compares the options that we have with the goals that the school committee has developed. And then we developed a couple of test fits for the Mitchell School, because we understand that it's hard to imagine what a 5-section, 4-section, and 3-section school will look like on that site. So we just developed a few of those options for you. And then we will take any questions that you have for us. So starting off, most of you are probably familiar by now, if you've seen any of the previous presentations, with the 4 options that we developed in this 2022 master plan. Option A is what we call a status quo. By that, what we mean is that we leave all the schools in their existing location. So you have an elementary school on the Mitchell site, which serves all of the Mitchell population, plus some of the overflow from other districts. You have a Pollard school that remains a 7th and 8th grade school, and you have a High Rock school that remains a grade 6 school. The way that you can read this is that this tan line here is the temporary school. So for option A, you would MSBA project for a 5-section Mitchell school, you would need a temporary school here, and then you would come back, develop the Pollard school, and then come back after that, and you would have to put an addition onto the High Rock school to serve the needs of that community. And for those of you who've been part of our previous presentations, one of the things that you realize is the High Rock school remains overcrowded until you can actually resolve the construction for that addition. Option E was new to us for this 2022 master plan. And what it does is it tries to reduce the size of the school on the Mitchell site. So instead of a 5-section school, it makes it a 4-section school. And the way that it picks up the additional classrooms that are necessary throughout the district is by putting an addition onto the Elliott School. So the timeline follows the same as the option A. So it's status quo for all of the schools. And then we come back and we add those additional classrooms at the Elliott's site. Options C and D are grade reconfigurations. They involve moving grade 6 to the Pollard school site. So Pollard becomes a 6th through 8th school. And in doing that, it frees up the High Rock school to become an additional elementary school. So as soon as the students move out of the High Rock school, the Mitchell students can move into that school. So what you see is that you've resolved the Mitchell facility issues as soon as you can get those children into the High Rock school. So you're no longer upkeeping the Mitchell school and the students are no longer dealing with the facility issues of the Mitchell School. It does present a little bit of overcrowding across the district for the time frame that it takes to complete a new Mitchell School. And Jason can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 1 to 2 students per classroom across the district at the elementary school level. And then you would come back and you would build a 3-section school on the Mitchell School site. And depending on whether you go with the MSBA for the Pollard School, or if you go it alone, where the district funds the entire school, would determine how long it would take to solve that problem. If you do the project without the MSBA, you can actually speed up the process by a year to 2 years, depending on your funding. So those are the 4 options that we concluded with in this master plan. And we also developed a decision tree for everyone. And it really came down to, where does grade 6 go? So does grade 6 remain by itself at the High Rock School from now until eternity? Or does it move into onto the Pollard site? And by making that one decision, you then have to then trigger a whole bunch of other decisions. So if it remains by itself, then the Mitchell has to be your priority project, because it would be the school that needs the most attention at that time. And then the next question would be, do you solve it with a 5-section school or a 4-section school? And then that question could be answered with, how long do you want the project to extend, and how large do you think that site could accommodate a school? So if you think it can only accommodate a 4-section school, then you're going to have to make up some classrooms further down the line at the Elliott School. If you think it could handle a 5-section school, then you can resolve it in 3 projects, knowing that in between you have a 40,000 square foot temporary modular project, because you have to move the students off the Mitchell site. If you decide that the grade 6 school can go over to the Pollard site, then, oops, I'm sorry, the Pollard School becomes the priority project, because in order to solve the Mitchell School, you have to move the kids out of the High Rock School. So then the next question would be, which school is going to be your priority project for the MSBA? You could present it as the Pollard School, or you can try to do that project just through the MSBA process, or you could present it as the Mitchell School, knowing that that is a facility that's in great need. So either way, it will really affect your timeline and potentially your costs. The cost for each of these projects would be somewhere between $314.4 million to $327, depending on which way you go and how long that project takes. So with that, we then started to look at, how did these rank compared to the goals that the school committee had set. So I believe that you have these in your packet, so I'm not going to go forward and read all of the goals, but on the left-hand side, you see what the goals are. In the middle, we scored the goals based on the 4 being that it met that goal the best, and 1 being that it met that goal the least. So just comparatively looking at each of the options across the board. And then to the far right, I've added in some notes about each decision process along the way. And at the end of all of these goals, we tallied them all up, and you can see how each option scored again compared to itself, to the other options. So option D scored 1 point higher than option C, and then option E scored the lowest, mostly because it takes so long to solve the district's spatial needs. And then option A was right there in the middle. Going over to the Mitchell site, just looking at a 5-section school versus a 4-section school versus the 3-section on that existing site. So this is the existing Mitchell school on its site. It's currently a 4-section per grade school. It does have the 2 modular classrooms, which has relieved some of that overcrowding that you have. And those are located here and here. And we took a look at the parking requirements for this site as well. So we also know that the site has some parking needs already. We tend to use a multiplier of 1.5 times the FTE, which is the full-time equivalent for your staff. And these are just approximates. So if we were to look at the existing staff currently, you would need about 108 parking spaces on that site today if we were to use that same multiplier. And you have 65. So right now, you have a parking need as well as facility and site circulation needs on the site. If we start with the 5-section school, the footprint is approximately this size. If we look at where we can place parking all along Brookline Street, as well as along the side, so here, this is where the second modular ends. It goes all the way back to that turning circle, the bus turnaround in the back, providing an emergency vehicle access across the back. And similar to what we've done over at the Sunita Williams School, where we use the hardscape play area as the emergency vehicle turnaround because of the grade, the difference in grade between this area and the lower parking lot. You can see the site is fairly crowded, but the spaces here, if you think about the Mitchell School and you look at the size of the courtyard here in the middle, you can get a sort of a comparison between the sizes of the play areas that you see here. Or if you think about this line here being the beginning of the fields and the green area, you can see that we've taken up about half of that area for hardscape, and the rest of it remains play area. We use the similar footprint, but call it a four-section school. So these are all 2-story schools. We did not look at a 3-story school on the site. You can see that we gained some space in the back, and we're able to pull the roadway a little bit further over and increase some of the green space in this area. We also can come a lot closer to meeting the parking requirements for a 4-section school. So we have about approximately 103 spaces shown on the site right now. Again, you still need about 108, but maybe with some creative movements, we could come up with those extra 5 spaces. And then if we look at a 3-section school, you can see the difference. You can almost lop off almost a whole wing of the school. You gain a lot more green space. You pull that line, again, here's the field line, the existing field line. So you gained back a lot more green space in this, and you've actually met the parking requirements here at 103 for a 3-section school. In summary, we took all of that information that we have, that we've compiled. So you have your estimated cost, your estimated building size, your total classrooms. Again, options C and D meet the goal of 132 classrooms across the district, where the other 2 options fall short of that. The total classrooms at the middle school level, again, C and D provides you with the maximum number that you're looking for to meet the middle school needs. And then the time to completion, option E being the longest time, option A the second longest, and then C and D within 2 years of each other, depending on how you manage the MSBA process. And then finally, the ratings that you saw just a moment ago, based on how they met the goals of the school committee's goal requirements. So I think this is the shortest presentation we have given the PBBC ever. We're available for questions.
Aaron, I know I see your hand up too, Barry. So Aaron, you want to go?
Thanks. I just wanted to ask about the square footage total on that last slide. The last 2 options, which have 180,000 square feet. Does that include the High Rock, which I guess is, being sort of very lightly renovated?
Yes. So we looked at it as the whole. The High Rock has 0. We really, I think, said 0 for the renovations in the High Rock. Let me go back and just before I speak out of turn here. Yeah. So we said 0 because it's such light renovation across that And so your 180 for this is your Pollard and your 3-section Mitchell School.
Michelle, if I can just add to that response, the numbers in the decision tree here are additional square footage only, right? So at Pollard, for example, that 100,000 square feet is 100,000 square foot addition. That's not the total size of that project once 6th grade gets over there. Similarly, in like at Elliott, it's a 10,000 square foot addition. It's a 15,000 square foot addition. So the numbers that we're reporting on that last slide are the amount of additional square footage associated with each pathway, not necessarily the total impacted square footage in that option.
Got it. Thank you.
Harry?
Or upgrades to mechanicals for the entire school, if that's addition, right? Like, are we looking at, when you look at these additions to these schools that are existing, is that taken into account the overall upgrades to some of the existing systems itself that will remain?
With all of the projects that are shown in this decision tree, the end result would be an entire facility that's like new.
Okay. That wasn't my question, but Aaron's question brought up, I was thinking about that just now. Like, are we looking at this holistically for the entire building outside of the renovation?
So can I just add to that? So the cost estimates that we put out and then escalated, that included renovations to the building. What were the square footage only tells you what it's been added
Right.
to the district.
Right. Got it.
square footage.
Got it. So Michelle, can you go to the last slide, I think, which was the Mitchell, if that Mitchell was the priority project? Not the last one, was
Sorry,
it? I think that was the first
wrong
one.
direction. Where Mitchell's the priority project?
Yeah, where was the slide that had the years? Like,
Oh, sorry. Yep. This one.
no, keep going. Where are we?
This tells you the years that they would have been renovated.
So, all right, I'm just, there's a lot of like, colors and lines. I can't line them up. What are we talking, like,
Sorry.
in, as far as like where we see a building coming online
Okay.
like when we look at the master plan,
Sure.
best case scenario for either Pollard or Mitchell, or let's just use the Pollard, best case scenario for Pollard, how many years out from now are we looking at putting a building online? If best case scenario?
6.5 to 8, depending on
6.5 to
7
years.
right. Depending
Okay.
on whether or not you go MSBA process and when you submit your SOI and if you're
Got it. I'm just
accepted right
looking for,
away.
I'm
and-
just,
right.
again, I'm, in the back
Call
of
it-
my head, I got to maintain this building for the next 6 to 8 years, right? And-
Well, it would be under construction for about 2 years. So when
So
we
back
did
it off to,
our, right. So when we did our capital improvement cost estimates, we determined as soon as you started construction, you would stop maintaining the building because everything else would be under construction,
Got
even
it.
if it was
So-
occupied.
so the best case scenario could be, 4 years from now. Best case scenario, 4 years from now, we're putting a shovel in the ground potentially.
Best case.
Best case. Worst case,
Best
it could be,
For Pollard, your worst case is, 15 years from now.
okay. I mean,
And for your
Hank-
Mitchell, I'm sorry, for your Mitchell school, as soon as you move the students out, you don't have to maintain that school anymore, right? So your students are out. So again, that's, 7 years, 7, 8 years, depending on that. But in this scenario, you're moving the students out here within 6 years because they're going to a
Right.
temporary facility.
So, and I think Hank understands, and so do you, Michelle, where I'm coming from, thinking to myself, we're, the aggregate of all the things that I do in a 3-year time span, not to breach that benchmark and have to upgrade everything. And how far out do I have to put my effort and money into these buildings? And, we've heard this a lot over the years, and even before me, especially with, let's just take Hillside, for instance. And I know that's a weird building, but that was supposed to be demolished a long time ago. And here I am we're still investing in it. So, and I know that this isn't, nobody has a crystal ball and there's a lot going on, but, these conversations are really important to me. And I know that we should be talking more often, I think, and with Hank and PVBC and the amount of effort that I am putting into these buildings, because, every year is a struggle if I don't have the right controls. Every year is a struggle if I don't have the right systems. And it makes it difficult for educators and students. And it's like, well, how much, do I put into these? And it's not just me, it's like, Karis and the DPW and Kate, they're looking at me, and they're wondering what I'm doing next, what's my next project. And I'm always thinking, well, I can only spend so much because of these projections. So that's why I asked the question. I know I want somebody to just tell me, hey, Barry, you're gonna stop in the next 4 years. Don't worry about it. And I know you can't do that, but I had to ask that question because it just kind of, we have that master plan you did that I'm working off of with the Pollard and the Mitchell, and I'm picking out what I really need to progress with and spend money on, and how much, how far out do we have to go? So, I know this is going to be an ongoing conversation, but I appreciate it.
Right. And I think if you go back to a few presentations ago, we actually told you the maximum amount you could spend over the course of 3 years. Based
I got all that.
The value of the buildings today, right? Not to hit those triggers that you could. And then, hitting the triggers if an emergency happens and you have to do something, that's a conversation that you have to.
That's Cecilia, myself, and Shannon are putting that narrative together for FinCom and for the select board, because now they're concerned, we have a very small, threshold, especially with the Mitchell, given the value of the building, and they're now concerned that we might, step over that threshold, but it's a longer conversation, but something that we certainly need to talk about consistently as we progress through this master plan.
Great. Hank?
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that the master plan did include a fairly comprehensive list of capital improvement project recommendations and costs that were associated with those. And it's also important to point out to the PBBC that Doran Whittier is one of 2 architectural firms that have been approved as on-call architects. So I hope that Barry, you'll take advantage of that, and once you get your priority list together, we review it with them and figure out which can go to your on-call mechanical engineers, which ones need a full team, so on and so forth. And I think you're absolutely right. There's certain projects you don't want to take on because they'll either be fully gutted and renovated during the next renovation, or they're very important to take on now, and it's an incremental improvement that'll be left with the long-term plan. So there's a lot of thinking that goes in behind that, and I think you're set up for success.
Okay, Hank, or Michelle, are we all set for? I think that's the only questions I see are here.
I think so. If you don't have any further questions, we're all set.
I would point out to the committee that the FinCom in their last round of discussions were encouraging the town manager to go through the financial assessment of all 4 options and not eliminate any of the options at this time. That obviously is a heavy lift, but superintendent, I believe, is not expecting or is hoping to have a preferred option identified prior to the end of this fiscal year, which would be June 30th. Whether that's achievable or not, I don't know. The earliest that an SOI would be submitted would be next year, starting in January of 2023.
Okay. Great. Okay, we have one voting item for this, Hank.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, I will go to the voting item, the committee. One invoice from Doran Whittier for their February 2022 services for $6,530 coming out of the architecture budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'm going to go through any questions. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll come down through the roll call. I believe Aaron and Ann, are you both user group, or is it just you, Ann?
Yes.
Both, I believe.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
they are.
All right, roll call. Richard?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Okay, I think that does it for those invoices. So with that, we'll end the board review topic, and thank you to the user group. And we will move to the Ridge Hill demolition discussion. Is that you, Hank, too? Hank, is that you or?
Yes, it is. And I think, Don, are you going to hang around for this one too?
I will, Hank. Yep.
Okay. I distributed the cost estimate that we got from the Hillside or Ridge Hill project. And let me see if I can. I assume everyone got that. I can. I can pull that up if I'll share my screen. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
So we again had two cost estimates, one by Fogarty, one by PM&C. They were in a similar range. We had previously gone through a cost evaluate or a reevaluation of the original cost estimate, pulled a series of items out of the project. And probably the largest item is that the sewer and water department will be taking on the responsibility independent from this project to connect the barn to the water supply. And that work will be done before the contract is awarded to the contractor for the Ridge Hill demolition. The original direct cost that we had been assuming was around 470,000. So these two cost estimates in the range of $500,000 are greater than we had originally anticipated. But we have a total unencumbered balance within the project of about 546,000. So even if they do come in high, we will have to make the decision as to whether to proceed with a smaller contingency, or to take advantage of a deduct alternate number one, which would omit the 4-bay garage and associated paving from the demolition project. And in these two estimates, they were coming in at a little over $40,000. We will be going out to bid later this month with bids in hand by, I think it's April 24th. And we would be coming back to the committee at that time to show you the bid results and select a path forward. So we're within range on these two cost estimates, but we are definitely seeing some estimated cost creep and increase. I'll stop sharing unless somebody has questions.
George, and then I'll go to you, Barry.
Why is the exterior improvement cost so high? After we knock this buildings down, what are we doing that we're spending that much money between $160,000 and $206,000?
Well, that includes that line item. If we go to the full cost estimate, that line item includes the hazmat removal as well as the demolition of the buildings.
Is there an assumption of how much the hazmat would be?
85,000. Let me
Do we
double check
assume-
what I'm saying.
Do we assume that we're going to spend that, or do we have any indication that there is substantial hazardous waste there?
The UEC, who are the sub-consultants that we use regularly throughout the town, were the same company that went up, did the testing, identified a series of things that need to be abated, including some existing asbestos. There's some tar, there's some roofing materials that contain asbestos. That's the number that we, with the cost estimators and working with Doran Whittier, that's the number that we both was assumed in both of these estimates. So I think I sent out the details. Well, I can send out the details if you're interested. I don't think I already did send out all the details.
No, I was just curious. That's a substantial chunk of it. It's almost half of it in one case and a little less than half in the other case. I still keep getting that nagging question. Why is it costing so much to take down a couple of buildings when in town we see buildings come down all the time, and they're usually about 10 to 20% of these numbers. Hey, Gene, is Gene there? Is Gene still on?
No, I don't see Gene. No.
No?
No.
He's
I was
there.
going to ask him.
Oh, well, Gene Demolition, yes. I mean, I see Gene there, but I think he's,
His mic is off.
yeah.
I was going to ask him a question about what it costs to take down a building that he took down and built a new house on top of it.
Yeah, I think he said last time when you asked that was like 15,000 or 20.
How much?
You know. I thought he said when you asked that last time it was about 15 to 18,000, but I could be
Right.
wrong. But
Yeah, but
okay,
he's
George,
not,
you all set,
he's not
or
doing
you-
it under, he's not doing it under prevailing wage.
well,
I
right.
understand.
Whole
I understand that.
Whole different set of games here, but are you all
But-
set, George, or?
Well, it's still an
George-
annoying question.
George,
It's an
I'll
annoying
forward
question to a
you.
lot of people.
I'll forward you the detail cost estimates.
Yep.
Okay, so,
I actually stand corrected. Looking back, the existing conditions is the contaminated site materials. That's both the hazmat within the house and the garage, and soil remediation assumed from the tank that's adjacent to the garage. Of course, and then you have the various GC markups on that. The earthwork.
The question was exterior improvements.
Yeah, so in that's the building demolition.
Right.
As well as all of the site demolition. There's the brick terrace, there's capping and filling. Well, there's the septic system, there's a septic tank, there's a separate field, the old-fashioned
Leach field.
it's not a field, but there are 3 chambers that need to be broken up and filled in and reseeded. We're doing all of the reseeding associated with the relocation of the water main. They're removing all of the aggregate surface of the driveway, most of which is pretty destroyed. And we're putting back, we reduced the cost by putting back in 12 inches of compacted base with 6 inches of gravel on top of it. There is some reseeding, new loam and seed for another 40,000. So I'll send you all of those detailed cost estimates, George, so you can answer that question to everyone at town meeting.
Well, there's a lot of people even outside of town meeting that have contacted me and said, how come we're spending that much money on knocking down a couple of buildings? And I explained some of the costs, but it's still a high number and it bothers me. So
we'll see where the estimates come in.
Yeah.
I mean, where
George?
the bids come in.
Yeah. Are you all set, George?
Yeah, for now I am.
Okay, I've got Irwin and Barry. Barry, do you mind if I go to Irwin first? Irwin, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, I would just add on the soil conditions regarding the underground storage tanks. There could always be a surprise. So I think I would hope that it falls within that 94,000, that there isn't anything unanticipated given what has happened in the past at sites. So that could be something that's different from your normal demolition at a house, for example.
True.
All right, Barry.
Thank you. Erwin, you bring up a good point. I wasn't going to bring this up, but there should be no guessing. We could easily take soil samples. So I think these are just assumed costs. It might not be realized. I think we did test for leaks, Hank, if I'm not mistaken. We didn't detect anything. So I think this is just kind of adding some fat to the cost just in case, some risk. I think the other thing too is the summary definition, or the summary titles, existing conditions. And I love the Division 32 exterior improvements. It would be improvement to knock that building down, but it is kind of like confusing that we're using that as part of that. But you know, Hank, and I know we're in the same building, and I really need to talk to you more often. I need to stop into PSAP more often instead of talking to you on these meetings to save time. But why are we bringing water to the barn? What are we doing with water, by the way? And that's one of my questions. The other one is about the alternate number 1, omit demo of 4-bay garage. But what are we doing with water?
Well, there's the town has made the decision to keep the barn in place. The barn has water coming to it, water and power. It used to have a ranger's apartment.
Right, but that's no longer operational, right? It's not even inhabitable. That's, that should be condemned given its condition. So what is the purpose of putting water to the barn unless we're putting sprinklers in the barn? The only people using that barn right now are going to be the theater group. Other than that, there is no future use of that barn or for any type of water services, plumbing, toilets, things like that. Drinking water, none of that was in the specifications for the existence of the barn. So why, again, and who approved that we're going to spend this money to bring a utility to the barn that's not necessary?
That was under the direction of the town manager. I think that as you know, the select board controls this zone of the site. Yeah. And I believe that Concom in their long-term plan would like to have some kind of facility up in that area. And whether it was the renovation of the barn or whether it's torn down and a new building is created there for activities,
would it be more
visitors.
practical would this be easier to sell if we were just to stop, put a stub and leave it as something that we can tap into later instead of tying it back into any existing system?
Well, the cost is being absorbed by the sewer and water department. It's not part of this work to do that connection. So you can certainly discuss it with,
No, that was, okay, that was fine. I was just
Yeah.
trying to make sure that we weren't putting any more costs into this that was unnecessary. The other thing too is alternate number one, omit the demo of 4-bay garage and associated paving. I agree with that. If this helps sell the demolition of the main house, I mean, the barn, I mean, the 4-bay garage out of all the buildings is probably the most usable and salvageable building. And it's something that we would love to have access to in the future, in the long term, and something that I would be more than happy to maintain as a seasonal storage for equipment. So that's certainly something that I would definitely want to see as far as if we have to reduce the cost. If this is one of the adults, it's definitely something that we could certainly live with.
Yeah, we put it in as a pressure relief valve.
Yeah.
We don't know how many bids we'll get. If we just get one bid, it could be crazy high. And we've seen that in other bidding, and you've seen it too.
Yeah.
So it's hopefully we'll get a responsible bidder and it'll be within our budget. If you want to discuss the issue of the water to the barn, I suggest you go to town manager and select board.
Me and Kate get along very well.
Yep.
All right, great. George, you have your hand up. Are you all set?
No, I'm all set. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. I mean, the other hard part is all the fuel prices are going on, so I can imagine that those bid prices will go up. But Hank, anything more on Ridge Hill?
No, Don, unless you have anything.
No, I think you covered it well, Hank.
Great. All right, thanks, Don, and user group. We will close down this topic. It is getting late from the committee standpoint in our schedule. I think what I'll do is just ask. We have two other topics. One is relatively, I think, straightforward. The future meetings for the Zoom, the proposed meeting schedule, and just the project list. I think we can go through that fairly quickly. The other one is the Nuwari topic, which is the next topic. So I would just offer up to the committee, depending on people's schedule, if you want to tackle Nuwari and that discussion, we've allocated about 20 minutes or so to it, or add it to the next meeting if we have time there. So I just want to put that out on the table. I don't think we're under any pressure to approve, but I think we want to be a responsible and respectful discussion. So that's why I want to put it on the table to folks. Anybody have any? Go ahead, Erwin, you got your hand up.
Yeah, can you give me a sense of what our schedule looks like at the next meeting? Are we adding it to a meeting where we will likely have more time, or will we be in the same situation at the next meeting that we are right now?
I think we might actually, Hank, we probably only have one or two things. We may even cancel that meeting depending on where we are.
No, we
we can't cancel.
Oh,
Wait,
I'm sorry, we do. We have the
Cost estimates.
yes, the cost estimates.
So it won't overly burden that meeting if we were to move it to 2 weeks from now.
Correct.
I think that's a good suggestion.
Okay, is everybody, I see some nods. Anybody object to moving the Nuwari to the next meeting? The cost estimates take half an hour. We take 20 minutes with this. That will balance everything out. I'm gonna recommend we do that. And if there's any objection, please raise it now. We'll move Nuwari to the 28th. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. I think that'll just help with our schedule. This is a big meeting tonight. Let's just tackle the last topics, which is future meetings, if we could. If I could just put on the table, first of all, Zoom meetings through July 15th. I suggest we continue on. I think we're moving towards being in person. If anybody has any objections, let's talk about it. The second part is the proposed meeting schedule you've all had through the email. Catherine sent out the proposed meeting schedule. So the only question there really is there any dates that are real concerning? And then the project list is the third part. So let's go to the first one, which is the Zoom. Anybody object to continuing with Zoom all the way through July 15th?
When do we have to end it?
It could come July 15th because I think June is when the governor may take away the temporary order. I think. Anybody got any clarification on that?
Can I ask you a question? Is it required that it's open to the public? Is that why it's going to end and then it becomes, and I know I'm not a voting member or anything, I'm just asking out loud, does the PPPC have to have an open forum meeting where the public can join?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact,
But I
they
think
have it now.
by law, we have to meet in person, but given pandemic, there's a temporary order in place. If that temporary gets removed, I believe we are forced back into, we have no choice but to go face to face. I think June is the next discussion point, I think, but I could be wrong. But Catherine and Hank, I'd look to you to help us
I
understand.
believe the current extension of that allowance for Zoom continues through July 15th. So that would take us through our first meeting in July.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to it. All right, super. So we'll stick with that. Any issues with the proposed schedule for 2023? Catherine, is there anything you need to bring up or anything we need to cover here?
Nope. I basically just, it's kind of based on 2022, but just a day off. So
Okay.
pretty
So
much
if
the same
folks-
schedule.
Yeah, so folks could just look at it. I know it's way in advance here. We are only the beginning of 2022, but just look at it and make sure there's nothing outlandish there that would, holidays. We'll have to go back over and look at some of the holidays and see if there's any issues. Okay, great. Hank, anything you want to bring up relative to the project list which you sent out?
Only to point out that the Needham Public Schools does want us to begin to proceed on the sound and light improvements at theaters. They've drafted an RFQ based upon our RFQs, and that would be looking at those improvements in 3 schools, the Newman School, the Pollard School, and the high school. There will be also a library study that should get funded at this coming annual town meeting. The Pollard locker rooms have already been designed, but that would likely become the cost estimate for that is just over $1 million. So it would likely become a PPPC project. And timing on that, I guess, wouldn't be until summer of 2023, assuming it gets the appropriate funding. And then there's also a warrant article for public facilities, public works facilities improvements, update to that master plan, which is a warrant article again for May annual town meeting. And once that's funded, then we would have to go through the RFQ process again for that project. So there are a couple these other studies that would be coming forward in the next quarter.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Or so the initial Pollard locker room study design started from me when I showed up in Needham 4 years ago because I saw the conditions of it, and I pursued some estimates which were far below what Dorn Whittier came in at. Dorn Whittier being, of course, the Cadillac of architects, in my opinion. You know, this was well over $1 million compared to what I had estimated. So I don't think that's really kind of the reality of the Pollard locker room. And given the master plan and how far out we're going to see anything happen to the Pollard locker, the Pollard school in general, And the conditions, I don't know if anybody on this committee has actually seen these conditions that the middle school kids have to actually endure. They're disgusting. I've already spent several $1,000s on replacing floors and a few other things, but the bathrooms are gross. Nobody goes in there because it's scary. And I would like the PVPC to actually consider moving this back to building maintenance, to pursue a different alternative to what Dorn Whittier has proposed. I think I can bring it in well below $1 million to renovate these locker rooms to a suitable condition for these kids for the for the next 6, 8, 10 years. But we've got to do something, and I don't think it's where Dorn Whittier shine on these small little renovation projects. I think it's something just low, it's below what Dorn Whittier usually does. But anytime they're usually involved, it really gets expensive because they're at the top of their game for construction. And I have other means of renovating what they really truly need and to get them through the next 8, 10 years. And I just want to put that out there.
Is this supposed to go to town meeting for approval this spring?
It's going to get shot down. I already know it's tier 2 right now, funding on Kate's list. It's not going to get funded. So we're going to have to go back to the drawing board, which I'm fine with.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think that this is one of those things where we have the authority to send that right back to you and say the PBBC thinks this is a better project, as long as you have the capability of handling it people-wise and time-wise. I would agree with that completely. I don't know about the rest of the committee, but
Thank you.
That number sounds like a huge number. I'm familiar with the locker room areas there. It sounds like a lot of money to do that. I agree.
Yeah. Thank you.
I do think the number came in high. They did, Barry, go through a very comprehensive programming discussion with the principal and the athletic director there. And
well, I mean, Hank, they're either going to get a locker room that they can live with for the next 10 years, or they're not going to get a locker room at all. So I think the conversation has to be had with the school and Dan, and they have to understand that. So they're either going to go to Dorn Whittier project that's not going to get funded, or they're going to get a BMD project that's going to be suitable to get them through the next 8 to 10 years that will be funded. I mean, that's going to be up to them.
Okay. All right. Great. So Hank, in terms of the projects, is there anything that we need to discuss in upcoming meetings to plan for anything, or just?
No, we'll just go full steam ahead with Emery Grover cost estimating, and that'll be the primary focus. That and Hillside. Those 2 projects will be our focus for the upcoming meeting and for the near future.
Okay, great. Okay, that's it for the last item. I think we're all set. If there's anything else left, there's only one thing I have left since Gene's come back on. George has the question of the night, which he asked you a little while ago, I think about 3 meetings ago, and I'm just wondering if I was kind of right. The question was, what does it take to take down a house? And I think you said $15,000 to $18,000. So I'll let George ask the question again, and then Gene, you can answer.
Hey, Gene?
Yes.
You took down a house on Parker Road before you built the current one.
Yes.
Can you give me a ballpark of how much it cost to take that down? And was there any hazardous materials in the house?
Okay, so there used to be, for the longest time, kind of as a rule of thumb, typical old ranch would cost about $10,000 to take down. If it's a cape or very small colonial, maybe around 13. Now we're probably seeing a price of around 15. Unless it's a larger size colonial in a 1 acre area, then it could be even 20. But I think 15 is a reasonable price for demolition. As far as hazardous materials go, usually we inspect for asbestos, which is typically found in, usually it's found in a basement, around the boiler pipes and old floors. And that usually on average, $650 to $700 in testing. And I would say probably about $3,000 to $4,000 for removal.
And you don't do lead paint or an oil tank?
Oh, no lead paint. Oil tank, yes, $500 to remove an oil tank.
That's
there
the
you go,
difference between
George.
residential and not. Never gonna happen.
I want
Never
your
gonna
film
happen.
jacket for that.
But that
oil
assumes no
tank.
contamination by the oil tank.
That's union and non-union.
Henry,
I work with George's friend, so he removes the tanks. He knows the guy.
Thanks a lot.
Hank,
Thanks a lot. Yes,
They're great company.
yes.
Hank, I was gonna say, good job getting your estimates so tight because I was shocked at how tight they were. So the documents must have been very good. I was on the opposite plane of everybody else on the call. Good job.
Thank you.
I'll
credit the architects.
Yeah. Erwin?
Yeah, I just wanted to report on the improvement at the senior center, that they have replaced those wooden panels that were badly delaminating. And what they put
Exterior
there,
ones.
yes, and what they put there looks great now.
That
I'll have
took
to
me
go by and
4
look at it.
years. When I first came into this town, I saw those and I'm like, I have to do something with them. And on the as-built and in a notation on the as-built, they were supposed to last indefinitely. And I think what they didn't say was the actual substrate, the wood itself would last indefinitely, but the exterior treatment would not. So we're looking at 8 to 10 years of maintenance on those sun deflectors. So, and that's, we put that in our budget, but thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, it looks great.
Great.
As
Okay,
that,
folks.
as that feedback gets sent back to the architect, who's also doing our school administration building at Emory Grover, I think that feedback is important to get back to him. Was he involved with that?
No, I took care of that, but I'm constantly like always talking to the architects who are building the new buildings in our town and.
Right, but I mean, the
I don't
architect,
think there'll be sunshades on Emory Grover.
Joel
well,
is
I
aware.
understand that, but that kind of feedback is important to give them of, have they been, is Joel aware of that, Hank?
He's aware that there was a problem. He had offered to assist to either spec something new, but Barry took it over and did a great job.
Okay, good.
Great. Okay. All right. We're way over, but I think it was a good meeting. Lots of good topics, key work. So with that, everybody have a great rest of the week and we're on for the 28th. This is the next meeting. Cost estimates.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, everyone.